Howdy, y'alls. I'm back. It's Dr. Edwards, and I wanted to put together a little overview of our Module 5 discussion, which really focuses in on food identity politics. All right? Now, I'm going to stress from the get go, you're going to want to make sure you have read over the readings and resources for Modules 4 and 5, because we're kind of drawing on both of those for this. Now, excuse me. I guess that didn't help because the mic stuck to my face. Anyway, we have some kind of three critical elements that you're going to want to address in your initial post. The first is using food production or consumption. Select one aspect of how food contributes to identity. Now, there's a great example about maize in the Maya. All right, maize, corn, is absolutely fundamental to Mayan identity. All right, it was their primary staple crop. There are intricate deities associated with maize. Incidentally, initially it was a female deity associated with maize, which really underscored its fertility and things like that within the culture. But then after European contact, it shifted to a male figure. Kind of interesting. Might say something of influence of European gender values being, or filtering into Mayan cultural values. Anyway, that kind of gives you an idea, all right? That for the Maya, maize is a really fundamental aspect of how they identify, right? There's 1,000,001 uses for corn, right? Think about all the things that, even today, that we make out of corn. We use it for everything. So yeah, you're going to want to, just, use a group and explore how food is central to their identity. Okay, for the first part, it would be really good if you could use some scholarly sources. All right. Then next up, what are some of the factors that have contributed to this rise in food identity politics? All right. So our chapter 5 that you should have read for this week really offers a great example of exploring food identity politics. Okay, it's clear from reading about agricultural history that it's not just about producing and consuming, but it speaks to political relationships and economic relationships between all sorts of different groups, from local scale to global scale. All right. Just as I noted about maize and the Maya, there was a shift from a female association to a male association. Well, that would be a clear factor that plays into food identity politics there. You look at NAFTA, right? Huge influence. Yeah, sorry, I had to catch myself. Almost said a bad word. It really put certain individuals and cultural groups at a severe disadvantage, and privileged other groups at the same time. So that should kind of help you think about food identity politics. Now, last up, you want to use two different theoretical perspectives, one Western and one non-Western, and discuss the implications of that form of display. Now, to translate implications of that form of display, the identity politics. Okay, let me give you an example here. So back in Module 2, we had some key resources about theoretical perspectives. There's a website, there was an article, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Definitely check those out again, because I'd think they'd be pretty valuable for this discussion. But in terms of implications for the form of display, the current situation of or recent historical representations of culture and food. Uh, you know, we might use a Marxist perspective, all about how production is controlled by a relatively small group, and everyone else is subject to the means of production. Uh, and you might use a non-Western theoretical perspective, such as a local symbolic perspective of what that food means to people. All right. Um, so, to kind of another good example to use for this, I shared the article by Marvin Harris, Political Ecology in India's Sacred Cattle. Excellent article. It's one of my faves. It's really, really cool stuff. I'm a cultural ecologist, so yeah. Or rather, I do cultural ecology. Um, Yeah, in that article, Harris really applies a cultural ecological perspective on a religious belief system, Hinduism, in India, right? So that Hinduism would really be the non-Western perspective, right? What does cattle mean from a Hindu's perspective? Okay. Um, you might want to check out some of the extra resources I shared, actually to help you with your Milestone 3, but I highlighted some anthropological databases that you might find of value for this. So check those out. Now, for your response posts, times two. And you want to the whole goal of your response posts is really to engage the material. All right, show me your mastery of it. Okay, so your initial post does some of that, but how you're able to critically think or show your critical thinking about the key points that your fellow classmates have raised is really important. It shows kind of like how you internalize concepts. Yeah, it's all about applying your critical thinking. So you want to think about, do you see other factors that play a role or influence or impact the food identity politics of your group? Do you see common patterns across different groups? Like, oh, I don't know, the whole bit about agriculture and its unique history here in the U.S. and the power relations that it speaks to in modern society. That sort of exploration of things is going to be helpful here. I'm just using that as an example. Obviously, I don't expect you all to go write a thesis or a dissertation or anything like that for this, but yeah, use our materials to support your points. Pick out things that raise a question for you, or things that, like, oh hey, I read this article about blah 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 blah, and that speaks to this and your points about X, Y, and Z. Okay, of course, cite your sources. But I want to encourage you all to get into it. All right. Yeah. Anyway, that's where I'll leave this. Of course, always proof your work, APA citation for any and all sources that you use. Use in-text citation where you actually draw on a source in your writing. And of course, if you have any questions, concerns, you're stuck on something, you need like, hey, I'm stuck on this, I need some help with it, need brainstorming, whatever, just give me a call. You guys got my personal cell number, and I'm fairly available throughout the day. I work from home, so yeah. Just remember that I'm in the Pacific time zone. But yeah, I'm happy to help in any way that I can. So that's where I'm going to leave this, and I'll see you all on the discussion boards. Take care. Bye.